Call the meeting to order. Those who care to, please stand for an opening prayer and pledge of allegiance. Mr. Cameron, if you would.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day, and thank you for all you do for us. And Lord, I just thank you for the freedom that we have to get out and vote. Thank you for a beautiful day to do that, Lord. And Lord, we just thank you for our veterans, Lord, that have either given or paid the ultimate sacrifice or continue to serve our country. Be with them and their families. Be with us tonight. Guide us and direct us. In Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, we will open up tonight with a proclamation for Veterans Day. I'm going to go ahead and read that. Veterans Day, whereas our nation's servicemen and women are our best and brightest, enlisting in times of peace and war, serving with honor under the most difficult circumstances, and making sacrifices that many of us cannot begin to imagine. And whereas on November 11th, 2018, we will reflect upon the invaluable contributions of our community's veterans and reaffirm our commitment to honor America's veterans with their patriotism, love of country, and their willingness to serve and sacrifice for the common good. And whereas our community has an ongoing feeling of gratitude to those disabled veterans who have given so much in defense of the freedoms which we continue to enjoy. Now, therefore, I, Jeff Ussery, Mayor of the City of Republic and the State of Missouri, do hereby urge all of our citizens to honor our veterans and join with me in recognizing the tremendous sacrifices made by all veterans for this great land. Veterans Day, November 11th, in testimony whereof I have hereunto set my hand and affixed the seal of the City of Republic this 6th day of November, AD 2018. And we have an unusual number of veterans that serve on our council. So we have 4 veterans that serve on our council, and I'd ask them to come up here and each receive a copy. Mr. Dykeman, Mr. Brashears, Mr. Wilson, and Mr. Franklin. Before we get started, anybody in our audience, staff members or not, who are veterans? No, I saw the look like, oh, I don't know. Anybody else?
Almost 2 years of my life. What's that?
Thank you. Okay, moving on to appointments. As the last time that we had a couple of openings for planning and zoning, we had several applicants, and we took applications and then we interviewed them. And from there, we had a list of people who were acceptable, as we thought, people that could serve on our planning and zoning commission. So as it stands, we do have an opening. Mr. Grooms has left, so at this point, I'm going to ask for the appointment of Ms. Cynthia Hyder to the Planning and Zoning Commission to fulfill the term for Mr. Shane Grooms, which will expire June of 2019. And I would ask if I have a motion and a second.
Motion. Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. We congratulate Ms. Hyder on becoming a Planning and Zoning Commissioner. At this point, I'll open up citizen participation. Anyone wishing to speak to anything not on the agenda, please step to the podium, state your name and address, and you'll have 5 minutes. Anyone wishing to speak to anything not on the agenda? Seeing none, citizen participation is closed. Moving on to the consent agenda. Before we move forward, I need to ask that we amend that. Mr. Franklin pointed out that in the consent agenda, under number 1, bill number 18-39, the vote was recorded incorrectly. It should be 6 nay and 2 aye in reference to bill number 1839. So first I need a motion and a second to amend that.
Motion.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0, and now I need a motion and a second for approval of the consent agenda as amended.
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. The consent agenda is approved as amended. Moving on to board, commission, and committee schedule. City council meeting, if you'll note on your agenda, those dates are wrong. We are moving some dates around to make sure that everybody is able to get where they need to be for the Thanksgiving holiday. And we don't want to have meetings, just have meetings. We need to have stuff to put on the agenda to discuss. So those new dates will be November 27th and December 11th for the council meetings. Those will change to November 27th, and December 11th. We have no old business. Moving on to new business. Need a motion and a second for the first reading of bill number 18-41.
Motion. Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. Ms. Brenda?
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri approving the final plat of the Monte Cristo Phase 5 subdivision.
Thank you. Ms. Haynes?
Good evening. This subject property is located at West Gray Street between South Main Street and South Calibra Avenue. This is actually the 5th edition of the Monte Cristo subdivision. Three separate phases have been final platted to date. This will actually be the 4th phase of this particular subdivision. The 5th phase consists of 33 residential lots of approximately 11.73 acres. It was first approved by City Council on March 27, 2006. The final plat has been reviewed by the technical review team for compliance with the approved preliminary plat. The maintenance bonding amount has been approved by the Director of Public Works in the amount of $32,500. The bond submitted to the city as a letter of credit has been reviewed and approved by the city attorney. The construction inspector on this particular project told me today there are several outstanding items that need to be finished prior to the second reading of City Council on November 27th. Those items include paving at the hammerhead at the end of Bacardi Street, installation of several road markers, removal of dumpsters and construction debris, some finish grading, water meter adjusting, and repositioning of a manhole frame. So I'll report back to you on November 27th with a report regarding progress and completion.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns from council? Seeing none, remember this is a first read. If you have any questions, please get with Ms. Haynes in the meantime, and we look forward to your updated report. Next on the agenda, I need a motion and a second for the first reading of bill number 18-42.
Motion. Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. Ms. Brenda?
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri appropriating from the revenue of the City of Republic, Missouri expenditures in accordance with the fiscal year 2019 budget of the City of Republic, Missouri and providing for adjustments thereto.
Thank you, Ms. Parks.
Under state statutes, Chapter 67, and by our city charter, we're required to have an annual budget that we use as a comprehensive guide for planning purposes. So tonight we have presented the first read. We will have a public hearing at the November 27th meeting to allow any citizen who would like to speak on the budget to present at that time. The 2019 budget as presented is for expenditures totaling $21,376,018. This is less than a 1% decrease from last year's budget. Basically, the breakdown, I will not go through, you guys could read the total amounts, I'll just go through the percentages. The general fund is 36.4%. The water services, or the water enterprise fund is 9.1%. The wastewater enterprise fund is 20%. The streets is 12.42%. The stormwater, which is our capital fund, is 0.39%. Parks and Recreation is 15.79%. The fire sales tax, which funds the fire capital, is 2.2%, and the capital improvement tax, which went into effect last year, is 3.7%. Basically, a few items were scheduled to be purchased in the 2018 budget. Those were not able to get done in time, so we're going to use the excess funds that were not spent this year to fund those those purchases next year. One of them is $90,000 for the new phone system. Other highlights of our budget is we're going to finish some facility improvements. The one-stop shop, we're going to finish the remodel of the lobby for $6,000. Unfortunately, the police station has a roof that needs replacement for $65,000, which is a pretty large expenditure. Fire station number 1, they are going to use some of their reserve funds, an amount of $40,000, to do their parking lot to handle the weight of their fire trucks. And then some personnel that we're adding, especially to the general fund, is in answer to the internal audit, the auditor's findings, to enhance internal control and to also help staffing needs in the utility department. We're going to hire a utility billing accountant, so that full-time position is in there. Also, a utility billing meter tech. This position is funded. We're going to reduce the amount of electronic ERTs that we're purchasing, so it balances. We're also going to make the contract planner a full-time senior planner position, and a human resource specialist, which will be a part-time employee. One of the very large components of this budget is we have worked to do a loggers change, move to the non-contributory level, which means that in essence the employees will not be paying the 4% that comes out of their check. The city will pick up the difference. We have spent a lot of time looking at all the needs of the city. We had budget meetings with each department and their requests and went through a prioritization process. We, as a fiscal policy, practice a fiscal policy where revenues and expenditures, we try not to exceed our revenues in the year, even though state statute allows us, as long as we have unrestricted funds in our fund balance. But as a fiscal policy, we try to keep it there. And this year, we have $17,000 in available funds. I'll get the exact number, sorry. $17,901 in the general fund and excess funds. That is not a huge amount, but seems in par with our previous budgets since I've arrived. So, like I said, this is our first read. And if anyone has any questions, I'll be happy to answer any. And any citizen who has questions, they could call me as well.
Okay, any questions, comments, or concerns from council? Seeing none, first read. Get with Ms. Parks in the meantime if you have any questions between now and the next meeting. Thank you. Moving on to resolutions. Resolution number 18-R-28, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, awarding the bid for the Republic Aquatic Center Flow Rider refurbishment. Have a motion and a second.
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Mr. Keeling and Mr. Parks.
Happy to have Mr. Chris Parks here tonight. Chris Parks serves as our aquatic director, recreation specialist for the Parks Department. So happy to have him. This is, you can just pass these around. But, Flow Rider, the aquatic center, opened to the public in the summer of 2005. It's a feature attraction down there. Tried and true, about 1 out of every 5 people that come through the gates pay to ride on the Flow Rider. We are still, it was and we still are, the only surfing simulator in the state of Missouri. So that hits a few of our values, the old B. I love the bold in that. So that was bold in 2003 before we even had B as a value. So we're still doing that. But as with anything, comes maintenance, we want to keep it fresh, we want to keep it nice, we want to keep our things always looking their best. We've just finished our 14th year, 14th season down there, believe it or not. And the facility is just as popular as it ever was. And the Flow Rider is just as popular as it ever was. At the time we opened the facility in 2005 and went through the construction process, the add-on for the Flow Rider was $440,000. just in give you terms of dollars, that same ride now costs about $1 million. So it's just crazy how much stuff goes up. But in order to protect our investment, we are recommending a total refurbishment of the flow rider. We budgeted $20,000 in 2018, thinking we might just do a partial refurbishment. After going down there in the spring and doing an assessment, we decided to just do cosmetic only, build up some cash to do a total refurbishment, and then lo and behold, we had the best season, well, second best season we've ever had, the Aquatic Center in 2018. So revenues exceeded budget expectations about $60,000, so that gives us a cash position to go ahead and maybe get this done, and that's a proposal here in front of you tonight. KP will pull up just some of the challenges we're having. It's hard to do justice in pictures of really the need. The exterior walls, the padded walls, just to tell you, and KP's going to handle it here in a second as far as what's going to happen there, but we're going to take that all the way down to the concrete walls. We're going to rip off, obviously, the top coating. We're going to rip off the existing padding, and the company will take it down to the existing walls, and then come back in with that product right there. I would challenge you on that top blue thing just to try to pick that off. You cannot do it. One of the downfalls of the older technologies, while people are queuing in line and waiting in line, they sit there and pick it off. It's really, really irritating. But so every year we have to come in and do this. So that literally you cannot do. And the new grading is by far superior, and I think it's on the next slide, KP. The new grading, which is the blue stuff there, is by far superior than what we have right now. Obviously, it's exposed to chemicals, it's exposed to UV rays for 14 straight years. It's going to start looking a little dilapidated. But this is all just an effort to keep it new, keep it fresh, and take care of what we have. The price is high. There's no doubt about it. The low bid came in at $65,650. As you can imagine, the people that generally work on these things are not local. Two from California, one from New York bid on the project. We have the ultimate confidence in Flow Rider Inc., who is the low bidder, to do the work right. We called references. They do it well. Our end product will hopefully end up looking something like this, as you can see. And once again, pictures don't hardly do it justice. But the average life expectancy of the old stuff was around 10 to 15 years. So we fit that bill. We just finished our 14th year. The new product, only time will tell how long it'll last. But definitely think it's worth the investment. Definitely think it's the right thing to do as far as keeping our facility looking its best. So the recommendation would be to award the bid to Flow Rider Inc. for the amount of, and I want to make sure I have that right, $65,650 through Mr. Eisen, our city attorney. We've worked through a contract. The work will be done by April 30th next year, and we will have liquidated damages just to make sure that they get that thing done, because as you can imagine, is a revenue generator for us. Happy to entertain any questions. Oh, sorry, I forgot one key component there, and Parks just brought it up. So, KP, could we kind of go over basically every item we're touching there?
Yeah, basically, everything in blue except what I have highlighted right now, which is our ride surface. Everything else in blue will be replaced. So he spoke about the sidewalls. We'll be taking down the foam and replacing with the new material. This area up top where the water recirculates and down at the bottom right here, that's where that blue grating will be placed, and also on top of right here. All these things have not only will make it look better cosmetically, but they are safer as well. The padding that you have that went around has a concussion rating on it. You know, if anybody was to run into the wall, it's rated for that. And also a couple other safety measures that will be added safety are these areas that will be closing some of the gap areas that we currently have in our ride right here and down at the bottom as well. It's just, you know, fingers, toes, things like that, increase safety there as well. So those will be all these front areas here will be the padding, and the back wall area as well will be that padding area that will all be replaced.
That's it. Happy to entertain any questions.
Any questions, comments, or concerns from council?
Yeah.
Mr. Jones?
Number one, just looking at, looks like the Aquatic Development Group didn't really want this project.
Yeah, so it's funny you say that. So I call him KP out of habit. So Chris, he's KP to me. So every time we've had a repair to do on anything to do with the flow rider, we've called them just out of a courtesy, and they've been threefold on everything. It's just amazing how high that company is. I'm sure they do a great job, but I don't know how truly bad they wanted this particular job. Now the other two companies are really in line with their bids. So
They're probably more a new equipment installation.
and they did do our new equipment installation, so that probably tells you that, yeah. Mm-hmm.
The other thing, approximately how much would you say revenue is generated by that?
Sure.
Right.
We actually sell it separately, which allows us to track that. Each and every year, we get about 10,000 patrons who just choose to add on that ride. So $20,000 annually. But that's just to add on the flow rider. I would argue that the amount of revenue brought on by that ride is far greater than that, because they're bringing families of 4 or 5 from here just for that reason. So
Worst case scenario, it's a 3-year payback.
that's correct.
And probably, I would say this is more than likely probably a 10-year, might get 10 years worth of refurbishment or of use.
Absolutely. I think with it by far the superior price, we'll get a bit longer than we did have, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
Anything else from council? Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. Mr. Keeling, it appears that you're going to be with us for a little bit here.
I am. That's because I haven't been with you in a long time, so pile it on them once.
Moving on to resolution number 18-R29, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, authorizing the execution of a license agreement between the City of Republic and Lester E. Cox Medical Centers for the purpose of continued operations of Cox Fitness Center, Republic, located within the Republic Community Center. Do I have a motion and a second?
Motion. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Mr. Keeling.
Sure. As most of you know, Cox Health, Cox Fitness Center operates Cox Fitness Centers Republic out of our community center. They've been a tenant of ours since we opened our doors in October 2003. Really do a great job. 24/7 state-of-the-art fitness center. Our community, we have been happy with the partnership. In 2018, the current year, they paid $112,550 for rent. That is for basically 10,000 square feet of our building, 2 floors. Like I said, they're open 24/7. The logistics of the agreement, which I don't want to get into all of them, is we pay utilities. We do what I would call the heavy facility maintenance, replacing of lights, the HVAC work, etc. They take care of the light facility maintenance, vacuuming, smaller things like that. I can't really think of what all off the top of my head, but been a great tenant. As the new agreement is a 3-year lease, identical to the last 3-year release. There was a slight uptick in rent in year 3, and that's to go hand in hand with utility costs. Since 2013, we went back and looked at it just to make sure we were tracking. Our utility expenses down there escalate approximately 1% a year, and that's at the time we did the last agreement, and it's still in place at the time of this agreement. So the thought is every 3rd year we'll gain another 3%. So I think it's fair. They would tell us if it was fair. There was a time in the late 2008, so they were getting a little bit concerned. They're doing well as far as they're not in the obviously fitness center business to make money. Obviously their health is where they do, but they do a good job for us. They remain a good partner, a happy partner, a satisfied partner, and I would recommend the 3-year lease. So.
Any questions, comments, or concerns from the council? Mr. Self.
Random question. So I know that like in the past there was mirrors broken there. Is that something that
they would take care of all that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So just anything equipment related or anything they put on the walls, obviously they have to, if it's on the walls, they have to get our approval, but they take care of all that stuff. Flooring in the exercise room, they actually took care of that too. So they do pay a good number of bills, but when it comes to light place out or light replacement, HVAC, we take care of all that for them. So.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. Resolution number 18-R-30, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, awarding the bid for the renovations to City Hall. I have a motion and a second.
Motion. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Mr. Keeling.
First of all, David Froling with GHN is here with us tonight. David and GHN have done a terrific job working through the City Hall renovation project with us. Just to give everyone an overview, in 2018 we budgeted funds as part of the capital improvement sales tax, the CIS tax, for improvements to City Hall, mainly focused on 3 areas, those being accessibility, customer service, and employee security. So in working with Roger Day in the preliminary stages and ultimately with GHN and Mr. Froling, we've come up with a design we feel addresses all 3 of those concerns. I do want to say GHN has done a terrific job. Appreciate the work of David. The existing floor plan is here before you, and I do want to give David just a moment to go over that floor plan with you to kind of talk about the scope of work in the floor plan. KP, if you can pull up that far left one over there, blow that up, that would be terrific. David, can you just walk them through that real quick?
Yeah. Good evening. The existing floor plan, as you know, we had this wall to deal with. I think that was one of the original issues in the sketch that came out with the RFQ was that wall was actually removed. But we went back and took a look at it, and to address the issues that Mr. Kaling was talking about and try to reduce costs of construction, because as you all know, everything's expensive. We're trying to reuse a lot of the existing where we can. So the existing double doors stay, but they just get an operator put on them so they meet ADA requirements. The existing double swinging aluminum door that goes into the current area will remain. An opener will get added to that as well. New flooring throughout, and to increase the security and the control of the employees, there is actually a bullet resistant material that is being used below the windows. You won't be able to see it. It is inside the wall, but it gives them that option. They can tuck underneath their desk if they need to. The door is also the door between the public and the employees is also being, it has an electric strike on it, so you have to be buzzed in. So the public can't just come into the building and walk clear to the back anymore. Additional office space is also being provided, and I think there'll be a total of 3 utility windows and then 1 window in the vestibule for directional use as people walk in from outside.
Okay. Any questions? Keelan, do you have anything else?
I do. Thank you, David. I appreciate that. So we went out to bid. We received 3 bids for the work. The low bid ended up being Hamby Construction in the amount of $74,254. The recommendation would be to proceed with the work. I know there's a possible scenario out there where we might go out for a new building in the time that comes, but that would would be pushed off to at least 2 or 3 years. So I would definitely recommend going ahead with the work. Just to ensure, we've worked through this entire scenario with utility building, with finance, with public works, and even other departments to make sure all this flows well, because obviously there'll be displacement of customer service in the construction period. So as part of the contract, from the notice to proceed, the contractor will be given 90 days, and once again, similar to the flow rider, there will be liquidated damages to ensure that the work is done in a timely manner. I'm happy to bring it to this stage. I think it will be a major upgrade, first of all, when customers walk in. It'll be more of a professional setting, but it also, back to those core 3 things, it'll address accessibility, number 1, employee security, and ultimately serve our customers better. So,
Any questions, comments, or concerns from council? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0.
thank you, Chris.
Okay, moving on to resolution number 18-R-31, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, authorizing the extension of a license agreement with the Seniorage Area Agency on Aging, FKA Southwest Missouri Office on Aging, SMOA, for services at the Republic Senior Friendship Center. I have a motion and a second.
Motion. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Mr. Keelan.
I do want to point out here, the original agreement wasn't included in your packet. That was an error on my part. But the original agreement, Senior Age now Office of Aging, pays us $175 a month. Just for the rental of the space. So there is a monetary thing in there as well. It is a city-owned building, the Jerry Poole Senior Friendship Center, as it's been recently renamed. We own that building. The city owns that building. We maintain that building. When I say that, we maintain almost everything except for the kitchen and the equipment. And we even do request on behalf of Office of Aging if they need some help in there every once in a while. But the building is ours. We went through a lot of renovations over the last couple of years to bring that up, to modernize it and make it better. But the Office of Aging takes care of the daily operations there, and I say daily, business hour operations, programming, food service, Meals on Wheels, things of that nature, things in the back as far as related to wellness. Overall, do a pretty good job over there. Been happy with the relationship, been happy with the partnership. Just to give you a kind of a number of what they expend annually is around $125,000 to $130,000 annually over there to make that thing happen. They get a lot of their money through federal and state grant funding. But recommendation would be to extend the lease through February 1st, 2019, and then we'll come back with another extension probably close to in January, somewhere in there. So.
Okay. Any questions from council? Discussion. Seeing nothing, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Had a long night at the podium.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the last resolution, number 18-R-32, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, awarding the bid for the waterline materials purchase for the installation of approximately 1,406 feet of water line to be relocated for the Retmo Drive roundabout. You need a motion in a second.
Motion. Second.
I have two motions in 2 seconds. Mr. Nelson.
Good evening. We received 2 sealed bids for the materials for the relocation for the water line out on the north side of Republic Road for the roundabout. With that, the low bid was $27,703.72 for Harry Cooper Supply. That is money that we will expend, but we're going to get reimbursed by MoDOT for the relocation efforts. So we'll get money for the materials, our labor, and our equipment hours on that site reimbursed by MoDOT. Now, we do have a payment coming up to MoDOT for that project for local dollars as a cost share, but I anticipate that most of that will come back to us through these efforts.
Any questions, comments? Does the repayment from MoDOT come at the completion of the project or completion of our work?
It'll be the completion of our work. We'll send them an invoice. I was hoping to kind of get it at the same time, but the payment that we have due to them is actually due. You'll probably see it at the next council meeting.
But it's likely to balance, or close to it?
Close to it, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Bashir?
Question I remember, when's the start date for this?
For the roundabout project, I actually talked to MoDOT today. They're January 18th letting, I believe, through the contract process, but they're looking at middle of March 15th or so to actually start work.
19.
Yeah.
Do they have a completion approximate time?
I think that they're going to ask for them to be done before school starts again in August.
Thank you.
Anything else? Seeing nothing, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? That motion carries 7-0. That takes care of those agenda items, and now we'll move on to the finance report. Ms. Parks.
Well, tonight I'm presenting the September financial report. At the next meeting, we'll have October. I tried to turn it around, but couldn't quite get there because I was out last week. But basically, our October sales numbers were down 0.94%, so almost 1% off of 2017's month of October. But overall, we're still up 7.24% for the year to date. So, but I think if you'll recall, I had mentioned at the previous meeting that our December payment, you could see from our spreadsheet here, last year was very, very high because the Missouri Department of Revenue had collected things. So I'm not anticipating that high of a payment to come in December, so we might not end the year at the 7.24%. The cash report, overall, we're doing really well. Our general fund has $2,199,379.19 in unrestricted cash. You'll see that for those of you who really watch the numbers on these reports that I give, you'll see that I have combined two categories, and I'm just mentioning this just in case people have questions. On the water and the wastewater, under designated utility fund, CIP, I combined the equipment replacement and the CIP because with our new software, we've condensed our chart of accounts, and so capital items, we've moved all into the same. So just if anyone had questions, I just thought I'd point that out. But overall, the city, our unrestricted cash balances remain very strong at $7,294,102 overall. Some of the funds, however, are restricted for their purposes. We have a new report, but this is not the final report, so I have a custom report that will be installed hopefully next week, so it'll look different from this, but this time we tried the detail versus budget. It should be fairly easy to read and decipher, but we are doing really strong in our general fund right now. So far to date, through the end of September, our revenue is $5,945,408. Our expenditures were $5,335,152. So we have a surplus right now, the end of September, of $610 in the general fund. So we anticipate to end the year slightly under our budget that we had budgeted overall. And some of those funds, for example, the $90,000 for the phone system, will be moving over to next year. The Parks and Recreation Fund, their revenue is $2,523,617, and their expenditures were more. They were $2,834,582. But as we mentioned earlier, they have the bulk of their expenses in the summer, and as the year finishes out, that deficit will decrease. Street, they have a revenue of $1,354,867, expenditures of $1,372,434. It's also a slight deficit, but we are cash flowing right now the Oakwood and Hines project, so that is expected. We have the unrestricted fund balance that helps with the cash flow with that while we wait for the MoDOT reimbursements. The CIP, which is our capital improvement fund, the revenue is $498,830. The expenditures to date are only $73,048. But as you heard, we have a lot of projects starting at the end of this year that will continue over to next year. We just had them delayed towards the end of the year. The fire sales tax revenue is $251,848, and expenditures so far are only $97,952. But we have several lease payments coming up, so that will not stay the same in October. The water fund revenue is $1,524,401. Expenditures are $1,534,850. So they have a slight deficit at the moment. And the wastewater, of course, is $2,549,513 for revenue. Expenditures are $2,564,654, also a slight deficit. I believe both of those funds were budgeted for 2018 to end the year with a slight deficit, so they're right on track. Another form that I did include at the back is a fund balance report. This is something new I have not provided before, but it shows the overall fund balance, including the assets on the books for the governmental fund. So like when the auditor comes in and gives your fund balances, they always look a little bit different than what I present. That's because they're capturing the whole government-wide financials. So I just put that in there so you get familiar to seeing that, and then when the auditor comes in with his report, you'll start recognizing those fund balances. The other thing is the water fund, the 510 fund, you'll see has a lot higher balance of, I believe, $14 million. I'm sorry, I don't have my paper in front of me, but we are going to split, as you realize at the beginning of the year, we split the water and the wastewater enterprise fund into two separate funds. We made the decision in the finance department to wait until we were on our new software to sort out the assets, because we wanted to make sure the assets were right. Well, we've done that process, and now we're ready to, next month we're going to move those wastewater assets over. So you'll see that move over to the wastewater next month. So that's all I have. Oh, we start our UB implementation next week, so we're very excited about that. A letter will be going out to all the citizens, letting them know their new schedules. Those should be mailed tomorrow afternoon. And then last but not least, I know we had mentioned that we had the Citizen Transparency Portal. It will be live, hopefully, end of next week. And I also will be giving council members an email with instructions with your logins to our Encode 10. I know we promised it earlier, but we just been a little bit delayed. But we're very excited to get you guys logged in. And me and Megan will be happy to assist with any training so you can see your own reports on the Tyler Express. Thank you.
Any questions? I have one quick question. I had a few phone calls about water bills. Was it just an oddity that some people got their water bills later than normal, or was it a part of the software? Do you know?
We've had some. That's a good point. Thank you for bringing that up. We have had some delays this month because of the implementation process. We're having to do a lot of extra steps to capture the processes and the data pulls. So that has delayed our bills going out a little bit late. Though we have also had some difficulty with some people in the mail system itself. So I'm not sure if it's completely, but next month's bills will be late. But we are going to work with everyone. A letter will go out explaining exactly what we're going to do. So,
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Have a motion and a second for approval of the finance report.
Motion. Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. On to reports from staff. Mr. Cameron.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Debbie, I want to commend you, Jared as well. Those of you that worked on the budget, I'm glad to see you, Debbie, feeling a lot better. We missed you at the budget meeting. A lot of your work, a lot of your effort is outlined in these pages, and I hate it when you have to miss that part of it, but I'd rather see you get well. We all would. And so I'm glad to see you back this week. So I will tell you, though, that her staff on those utility bills, I was up here both Saturday and Sunday of that day for quite some time, and the UB side was up here actually doing this by hand, preparing that to get those bills out even at the stage that they were at. So changing to this software is going to be critical, but there's going to be some pains to that transition. But going from a once a month billing cycle to a twice a month billing cycle is a process improvement that will bring a whole lot more efficiency and utilization to our staff, and hopefully a better response for our community. So Debbie, I appreciate it in advance, and for the challenges that you're facing in this transition. Thank you to you and your team. Jared, thank you for the help with the budget. Thank you to all the staff with the help with the budget. We started early. The objective was to have the first reading by here and to be done by November, which is probably the earliest this city has ever had their budget done. But I commend the staff for getting it done when they did. Again, thank you to our veterans. I'll tell you what, today was a beautiful day. It's an election day, but when you go out, every time you get to go vote, there's a right that's given to us that did not come free, and so came with a price. And so when you think about what our veterans have done, it's something we have to stop and think about. So, Monday is Veterans Day. Just take some time to reflect and be thankful to your veterans. I was always raised as a kid, when you see a veteran, to shake their hand no matter where you're at, just to take the time to say thank you for your service. And I've never had a time when I've walked up to somebody and said thank you for their service that they didn't appreciate it. So thank a veteran. I appreciate, Mayor, that you would take the time to recognize our veterans tonight. Just some real quick high points that we have. Garden Business Park, we're working on Garden Business Park 3, which is basically another submittal that's come in for another building, which means we're about ready to be reimbursed for at least one of the lots that have sold. I'm told that we're going to be working on that, so there'll be some sort of presentation or check that'll be coming to us that I look forward to presenting to the council, to the community. That'll be reimbursing our funds, and then we're anticipating another lot selling and another building that will be taking place shortly thereafter. So I anticipate 2019 will be made completely whole for the work that was done in 2017. So that'll be great news for the community. Also, I'm very happy to report, I mentioned several weeks ago that we had submitted 2 projects to the OTO for the STIP. I believe it's the 22 STIP, 2022 to the 24 STIP, and the US 60 corridor study and 74 and 60 were approved and have been programmed into the STIP. And so once it's programmed in, and we as an executive board, or the board at the OTO voted unanimously to approve that. So I was a little bit concerned there might be some opposition because obviously we had one that never existed that popped into the screen that got rated as the #1 thing to address. But had a lot of discussion. A lot of our peers of neighboring cities understood the situation. We had a lot of discussion. So great to see that on the report because that's good for our community with the growth rate that we're seeing and plus the capacity issues that we're recognizing on 60. I think that's a huge win for our community. In return, though, it's going to be one of those situations where we're going to have to work very diligently to find the matching money and program dollars to do that. And as we mentioned at the budget meeting last week, we're going to have to work on ways and working on some issues and a ballot issue that will help free up cash to address those needs. But kudos to the staff for being aggressively progressive with that process improvement and pushing that issue in front of MoDOT. And I appreciate that work. Maximizing our dollar on the roundabout. What Andrew did not mention that I will mention is we're relocating that water line with our own crew. So initially, when that roundabout was done and that in-kind was done, the city was going to be footing that bill for a contractor to come in and relocate that water line. That is a new process. If you look at what we've been doing with our staff, they're building our own infrastructure for us versus outsourcing it. So we're getting billed back and paid back as part of our in-kind is the use of our own staff and our own equipment versus paying a contractor. Not that I don't have a problem paying contractors, but when we have the resources in-house to do that, I think it speaks highly of the staff that we have and the work that they're doing. And lastly, we have been selected for the Missouri Partnership. This is kind of a cool thing where they bring in a group that comes into our community and analyzes how we're going about economic development, how they do site selections. When a site selector is looking at our community, we have been selected for a grant where they come in and analyze how we go about processing businesses coming to our community. And so I think it speaks volumes again because the Springfield Chamber of Commerce actually through the SREP advocated for us to get this grant and this opportunity. So looking forward to seeing what the results of that will be and how we can improve our processes for economic development in our community. But other than that, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. For my report, I want to say David didn't tell you guys when he's talking about the economic, or Mr. Cameron didn't tell you guys about when he's talking about the economic development, and when you get a call from somebody in another state that has no idea who we are, never been here in their life, and just says, I hear Republic's the place to start a business. I mean, that's a huge deal, that the word is getting out that much, and that the economic development, the community is just saying, things are so much better there that that's where we all want to be. And that's a huge credit to all of the staff and to David, or Mr. Cameron, for everything that's been done. With that, loggers, how amazing is it that our employees finally, we're going to get to a point in their retirement where they don't have to pay for their contribution to loggers. Most cities, counties don't pay for a contribution to loggers. We're still at a level that needs a lot of work. I think we know that with the retirement. But this is a step in the right direction to show the employees that we're doing everything we can to try to make that better, that we can within our own hands. We had, Mr. Cameron and I had the opportunity to meet with the Southwest Regional Office Director for Governor Parson. And luckily, he lives in Republic. So he has a genuine interest in seeing the city of Republic continue to flourish. And as far as, with not getting into any politics, but to tell you that Governor Parson does appear to have a genuine interest in the local communities and getting out and making sure that not all the money that gets given by the state goes to Kansas City and St. Louis, that we think about places like Republic. And I know in the past that that's been an issue. And I think I think we have a genuine ally in the governor's office, which is amazing. He wants to come to some economic development meetings. He wants to get involved with the city and see how he can help. So one of the things, when you have those meetings, you get an opportunity to say stuff that, hey, what about us? And some of the things we talked about in that meeting were MoDOT issues funds for highway development. And when a highway gets to a certain point, they need to take a hard look at that. And that needs to be a need resolution, not a political one. Not who lives in what area, so do we fix this road first. So Highway 60 right now through Republic is at 113% capacity, which means it needs to be fixed. And MoDOT needs to put their efforts toward fixing that highway because it just doesn't impact Republic. It impacts Monette, it impacts Aurora, it impacts Billings, Marionville, and we are the bottleneck because we have the economic development right now. Not complaining about the growth, but a simple fact is that we're going to continue to grow and probably more over what we're doing right now. So we've requested from the governor's office that they lobby for us on our behalf to make sure that something gets done with Highway 60. Regardless of what happens with any ballot measures in the future or tonight, something's got to get done with Highway 60. It's a need, not a political subdivision. The other thing we talked about was the tax allocations that are allowed for cities. We just kind of talked about the subject of the state can limit the amount of taxes that a city can take in, and we understand that and agree with it. We don't believe that the state should be telling the cities how they have to spend those taxes, as long as you go out with an initiative on the ballot that's very clear about what you're using that for. Because what it does, in our opinion, is it requires cities to go out and ask for more taxes at times when you shouldn't have to do that, because you have to ask for a general fund tax in order to free up money over here. So you pay for something out of the general fund and then free up money out of a highway fund or whatever it might be. So while those ballot initiatives speak very clearly, and if you vote for something, that's what the money should go to, we don't believe that the state of Missouri should say Republic has to spend their money on this, that, or the other. We should ask the citizens and let them decide what that money goes for. So I think we are really blessed to have that ally in the governor's office. And also thank you to all of our veterans, and I will move on now with council reports. Mr. Dyckman.
Well, again, the financial reports are getting much easier to read and more information, and I feel that our reports are a lot more accurate than what they used to be. Yeah. And they just, you know, the time, I spoke with Debbie about this earlier, was the fact that she was out for pretty much a week, and it was like, you know, she was still here, because she's got such an awesome staff, and all of our departments do, that they stepped right up, took the reins, and went right on like, you know, it was just a normal day for them. So I really appreciate everything that all of them do. That's all I have.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Mr. Russell.
Mr. Mayor, I'm excited to get home and watch the returns, so I don't really have too much to report tonight. So I'd like to thank the veterans. Thank you for your service, and that's all I've got.
I was long-winded, I know.
No, you covered it all. You're good.
Mr. Franklin.
Really exciting today to see everybody excited about voting and how full everything is, the turnout. That's probably the most exciting thing I'm looking forward to learning tonight is the turnout percentages. But thank you again to all of our veterans. I'm very honored to sit on a council with 4 veterans. That's incredible, and very honored to be here. But thank you to everybody that made the workshop possible last week with the budget and everything. I appreciate all of the hard work that went into that. But that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Bashir.
Hey, first of all, thanks again for recognizing the veterans. There's, like I'm saying, there's not one that doesn't appreciate being recognized that way. So thank you very much. Yes. Also, I know Gary and I have sat through, and Mrs. Poole also, many budget meetings, and I know a lot of times there were different times. It'd be 2, maybe 3 nights that we would meet, and it wasn't for a 30-minute session. It was 3 or 4 hours session, and even then, you might leave not knowing exactly what was going on. So I think probably every city employee that's here tonight, I'm sure, had a hand and spent time, putting that budget together. Presented so professionally. He did a good job, didn't he? So, but we thank you for that very much. And also, I was coming home the other day, and Mr. Nelson, we had the city employees were mowing the median, and I was coming through just about the time they were finishing. And the sun was down low, and it looked good. As I was coming in from MM, you recognize it. Man, we're looking at some good stuff here. So appreciate you guys. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Jones.
I'd like to also want to comment on Ms. Parks and the performance of your team. One of the great characteristics of a great leader is the fact that the organization doesn't fall apart simply because you're not there. If it does, then you have a problem. And it didn't. And as Charlie said, this budget process was certainly the cleanest and most clear-cut. Questions were answered before they were asked. And that's great. That's what you look for in those types of things. The other thing I wanted to mention, I was in line this morning at 5:45 to vote, and I was about 120th in line at 5:45 at the community center, which was great. Got to fellowship a little bit with some people I hadn't seen in a while, which was nice. But something that struck me when I was in there, and really this is kudos to the volunteers at the polling center. Everyone was very welcoming at that early hour. But something struck me. There was a young lady that was working there, and she was engaging because there were a lot of parents that were there. You know, there were kids had just woken up and weren't really excited about being at the polling place, but she was engaging them about what was going on in the process. And I thought wow, that's really neat. She was asking them questions about what they thought was going on and getting them excited about what was happening. I thought that was pretty neat. So just wanted to thank all the volunteers that are just not too long ago ended at the polling centers. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Wilson.
Well, on the water bill, I was always getting my water bill before the 1st and due the 10th. And then last few months it's been after the 1st. But I noticed on this particular bill it wasn't due until the 15th. So it all gets paid. Also, I want to say something about our ordinances. As we all know, we've got a little problem down on North Main. And the way the ordinances are written, the city can't do anything about that particular issue unless a neighbor signs a complaint. And I don't really think that should be the way the ordinances are written. I think they should be written in such a manner that when the code enforcement officer sees something wrong, he can step in and do what is necessary to take care of the problem. And the way it is now, it's not working, in my opinion. That's pretty much it.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Self.
I just want to say thank you to our veterans, and really, I think everybody's kind of said something, so it's not always bad being last, but I echo a lot of the comments. So, and then as far as the budget meeting, yeah, Charlie's right. I mean, it went by very quick, and even the 2 years that I've been here, I mean, that was streamlined. Mr. Cameron didn't have to use his glasses as much, so it was nice. So Debbie used bigger font or what have you, but it all worked out good. So that's all I've got.
We'll make sure you're first next time. Okay, anything else from council?
Ruck and Run Saturday.
Ruck and Run Saturday.
Councilmember Duran's involved.
Do you know where it starts?
The church on 174.
Meadowview Baptist.
Meadowview Baptist.
Okay, so Saturday morning, Ruck and Run, Meadowview Baptist Church.
It's always fun to watch other people.
Fun to watch other people, not do it yourself. Show up and give a donation. As much as I know you would like to adjourn, you all see the red folder, so that means we will ask to go into executive session. No further action other than announcing adjournment by the mayor shall take place after an executive session that is scheduled as the last matter on the agenda unless otherwise stated on the agenda or is allowed per RSMO 610.02. Tonight we'll be covering RSMO 610.021.2, real estate acquisition, closed session, closed vote to closed record, and RSMO 610.021.3, hiring, firing, promotion, or disciplining personnel, closed session, closed vote, closed record. Do I have a motion and a second to go into executive session?
Motion.
Second. It's always the hardest one to get. Roll call vote.
Councilmember Self?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilson?
Aye.
Councilmember Jones?
Aye.
Councilmember Brashears?
Aye.
Councilmember Dykeman?
Aye.
Councilmember Russell?
Aye.
Councilmember Franklin?
Aye.
The motion carries 7-0. This will end our regular meeting. We will go into executive session after a 5-minute recess. Thank you all for coming. I need the thing fell off my jacket.
Oh!
I was going like this, and I went.